Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today I'll be talking free agent edge options for the New York Jets. Before we get started today, a little housekeeping. You can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY if you haven't already. Check out the podcast wherever it is that you get your podcast, Just Jets. You can call in, leave me your questions. I'll try to get to it on the show. You could look at the new merch down in the link in the description. And last thing, little announcement here. So on Sunday, 9:30 p.m. I will be doing a live stream Q&A / free agency preview because Monday and Tuesday starts the tampering period. Wednesday is when free agency really kicks off. So it's going to be very busy Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday kind of a deal. So Sunday night, we're doing a little preview. So come hang out and chill. All right, so let's get into these free agent options. And before I'm going to preface it by saying I know a lot of people are going to be like, wait, why wasn't Shaq Barrett on this list, or Melvin Ingram, or Matt Judon, or Bud Dupree? Well, hold on. They all play outside linebacker. The Jets need a defensive end. They are playing a 4-3, not a 3-4. So instead of going for a Shaq Barrett, who is a outside linebacker, a Melvin Ingram, Matt Judon, Bud Dupree, all who play 3-4 outside linebackers, they're going to be looking for 4-3 defensive ends. So that's the reason why none of those guys are on this list. So this is partially big fish, medium, and bargain bin options like we've been talking about, but it's going to leave off the ones who aren't fits. So let's start with the big fish. And I don't even know if this guy's technically as big of a fish as he once was. He's kind of decreased in size, and let's get into it, and that's Yannick Ngakoue. Ngakoue is 26 years old, the last 3 years. So in 2020, he had a 70 overall Pro Football Focus grade, 72 the year prior, and 72.7 3 years ago. Pass rush grades, he still had a pretty solid pass rush grade, 76.2, 77.5, and 76.8. This is not someone who is good against the run. You are not signing him to be good against the run. You are signing him to get after the quarterback, which he tends to do pretty well. He had 8 sacks last year, 42 pressures, 6 hits, and 29 hurries. I think he's probably going to cost around $15 million a year. If you ask me what he would have gotten a year ago, that number probably would have been 17, 18, 19, maybe even $20 million, but I don't think he's going to get that. I think he's looking right around the $15 million range, and to me, this is the only big fish, because I just listed off a million big fish before that, just who aren't fits. Well, Yannick Ngakoue would be a fit because he's a 4-3 defensive end, so it'll work. Now let's get to some mid-tier options. This is where I think Joe Douglas is going to hang out. The first one that I'd like to talk about is Romeo Okwara. He's 26 years old. Pro Football Focus grades are as follows: 68.8, 60.7, and 64 the past 3 years. His pass rush grades have been very good, though, especially, his pass rush grade last year, phenomenal. Definitely take a step up. You see the development. If you go back 3 years, 50.3, up to 58.3, and then 84.5 this past year. He had 10 sacks, 61 pressures, 9 hits, and 42 hurries. Boy, does he get after the quarterback. I think he's going to come in around $10 million. I think this would be a home run if you can get Romeo Okwara at that price. He was one of the more effective pass rushers in the reps that he was getting. Really nice value there on a player like that. Similarly to Okwara, you have Carl Lawson from the Cincinnati Bengals. He's also 26. His Pro Football Focus grades 76.3, 55.5, and 79.4. Pass rush grades really solid 2 out of the last 3 years: 84.9, 64.3, and 80.9. He had 6 sacks this year, but 64 pressures, 34 hurries, and 24 hits. I expect him to come in at around 9. Maybe he gets up to 10 or $11 million, but I have him at 9 for average annual value on that contract. I think that would be an intriguing option as well. I know guys like Connor Rogers are really high on Lawson, and it seems to make sense. He's a younger guy too, which I like. So if you're going to go a little bit on the younger side, might as well get someone with some upside, and both those two guys in the mid-tier that I just mentioned seem to be trending upward, which is a good sign. My last mid-tier option, or my third, I guess, which also happens to be my last, is Trey Hendrickson. He's 27 years old, coming from the Saints, coming off a huge year. PFF grade of 72.1, 63.3, and 70 over the last 3 years. Pass rush grade 78. This past year, 62.8 and 64.5 3 years ago. He had a 14 sack season, 49 pressures, 24 hurries, 11 hits. The question is this year an outlier with that sack production, or would you like to go somewhere in that same boat money-wise on someone who, yeah, maybe they don't have the 14 sacks, but their pressures, hurries, and hits are a little bit higher, so maybe they still do it a little bit more consistently, I guess. But I think Hendrickson's going to fall in the $10 to $12 million range. I'm okay with signing him. Like, I'm obviously not opposed to it. I think anything you can get in here to help on edge would be great. I think I lean Lawson and Okwara, though, over Hendrickson. I also have 3 bargain bin options that I want to talk about. And ironically, this guy last year would have been, and most people were expecting him to be big fish, and now he's just a bargain bin because he's coming off a down year, and that's Jadeveon Clowney. He's 28 years old, had a Pro Football Focus grade of 74.9, 87.3 2 years ago, and 88.8 3 years ago. Pass rush grade 69.9, 79.1, 79.7. 0 sacks, so that's going to stand out. Obviously, he only played 8 games this year, no sacks. But in those 8 games, there were some good underlying numbers. 28 pressures, 22 hurries, 6 hits in 8 games. If you can get him on a 1-year deal at $6.5 million, let's say, I would maybe take that swing. I do think that he's an overrated player for the most part. Eats up a ton of penalties and is a little dirty. So is it my favorite option? No, but if edge starts to go quickly and you want to take a swing and you get him on a bargain, then okay, you can maybe sell me on that. This next guy is getting up there in age, but boy, is he still productive in a rotational role, and that's Vinny Curry, who's 33 years old. Coming from the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't expect them to retain Vinny Curry. They're going to go into a rebuild now. Pro Football Focus grades the last 3 years, 68.8, 77.9, 58.4. Pass rush grades the last 3 years, 70.9, 79.8, and 58.4. He had 3 sacks, but 25 pressure, 14 hurries, 7 hits on just 178 pass rush reps. He is extremely productive, and I think you can get him for $2 to $4 million. So if you're telling me that in some world we could take a swing and end up with Lawson and Vinny Curry, that's awesome. I'm really high on bringing Vinny Curry on a 1-year deal. I know Ryan was last year talking up about him a lot. I think he would be great in a rotation role. He's not someone who you pay and expect to play every single down, but you put him in on third down passing situations and just let him pin his ears back, which would fit in a Robert Saleh defense. And my last bargain bin option on my list is Justin Houston, also a little bit up there in age. He's 32 years old. PFF grades the last 3 years, 63.5, 87.1, 87.4. Pass rush grade 64.4 this past year, 81.9 and 89.7. He still had 9 sacks, so that looks good, but the underlying numbers weren't really there like they were in past years. 32 pressures, 20 hurries, and 3 hits. I think you could probably get him at around $6 million. I think he's made his money at this point. Maybe he'd look to go to a contending team, so that might be a little bit more difficult to nab a guy like that. But I still think he could be relatively productive in again, a rotational role. So of the bargain bin guys, Vinny Curry's probably my favorite just because I think you could get the best value there. But Houston is an intriguing option. Clowney's intriguing. And I'm really a big Okwara or Lawson guy. So if they can come away with one of Okwara and Lawson at around, let's say, we'll just round up to 10, and then Vinny Curry at $3 million and spend $13 million on the position AAV-wise against the cap, that's huge. I'm all for adding edge bodies. They need it. They desperately, desperately need it. They have not took a legitimate swing at edge in a really long time, and it's long overdue. Long overdue. They haven't had a good one since John Abraham. He was last on the team in 2005. It's been a long time. It's been a very long time. So that's going to do it for me on this episode. Let me know in the comments down below who you would like to see the Jets sign in free agency for edge. Get at me on social media. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.